This is RV Destinations Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RV Destinations Podcast. We are so excited to be here in our RV.
We are in our RV.
In 19-degree weather.
And no, it's warmer today. It's like in the 40s,
She won't let me go outside. She locks me in the RV.
I do. You are not allowed to go outside, sir.
That's right.
Nope. Dangerous out there.
We are in Winchester, Tennessee, headed towards Red Bay. And if you have a Tiffin, you know why we're going to Red Bay.
Yep.
Our new Ish. I say new
to
Ish.
us.
Yeah. We bought a slightly used Tiffin Allegro bus, as we've told you before. It's 2023. Only had 6,000 miles on it, but we have some odd end things. You know, if you own a motorhome or any kind of RV.
If you have rented an RV, you probably know that there's things that just kind of go wrong.
Right.
So.
We got all these random little lights that seem to be blinking.
I know. I don't know if you can see it in Randy's camera, but over his left shoulder, one of our little, I don't even know what those are, pretty little down accent
They're decorative lights.
They're decorative. So this is, I think, the last ones. No, we have one more after that.
Out of like 6 of them?
6 of them. That one's now burning out.
So they're supposed to be solid, but then they start blinking, and they start blinking faster, and then they go out.
And then they just disappear.
We've watched 6 of them do that.
Yeah.
Well, 5 of them.
So we have
one
one left over here.
One's holding.
It's holding on tight.
Well, we're really excited today because we're going to talk about, this is a show that's been a long time coming. This is one that I've wanted to do. But this is 15 of our favorite hikes, and we've got some special guests, some fellow avid hikers. And you want to introduce our guests?
I do. With us, we have Thomas and Victoria from Project RV Living Lost. They are full-timer RVers since 2020. So hi, Thomas and Victoria. How are you guys doing?
Hey, y'all.
Hi. How are y'all doing? We definitely know a lot about things going out in our RV. We've had to do a lot of repairs ourselves recently.
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure as soon as we jump off, we have to replace exterior lights on the RV. So we're right there with you.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. Well, we're excited about talking about these 15 favorite hikes, and we should say these are not. We're not calling these the 15 best hikes because there's still a lot of hikes that we haven't done. I'm sure there's hikes that Thomas and Victoria haven't done.
Well, and it's subjective. What I would say is an amazing hike, somebody else could go, I would never do that.
I would agree with that. So these are 15. I think we picked 7 or 8, and Thomas and Victoria picked 7 or 8. So we're just going to kind of go through that. But before we do that, we got to keep with the rhythm of the show, and that is we got some fun facts about hiking.
We do. And who knew? Okay, I'm just going to preface this. For those that are not watching the video portion, you can't see that I'm holding a glass of wine right now. So it has been a long, short day. If that makes any sense. So a long, short day. So I started drinking wine early today. So I am partaking in the drinkiness.
Good for you.
And so if I stumble over a couple words here and there, woohoo, kudos. Right, exactly. But I am my own source of entertainment.
Yes, we are drinking, but we shouldn't tell people that every single show.
But we haven't in a long time.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 nights since I drank.
Right? No, but on the podcast, we've been good. Not
hashtag
drinking.
Goals.
Hashtag goals. Dry January. Haha. Just kidding.
All right, so let's get on to some fun facts, and these are going to be some interesting facts. I found them interesting. So hiking can boost creativity. Studies have shown that spending time in nature can enhance creativity. In fact, in 2012, a study was done by Stanford found that people who walked for about 4 miles in nature showed a 50% improvement in problem-solving skills compared to those who walked in urban environments. So that hiker's high might actually be getting your brain... creative boost or whatever you want to say.
Creative.
Like my mind wanted to go one way, I went a different way.
It's okay.
But yeah. All right, so my Canadian friends, please forgive me here. I'm going to try to pronounce this. It's there's a trail in Canada called the SIA. It's the Senior International des Appalachians, I think is how that's pronounced, but send me an email if you think that's wrong.
I love how you put like a Spanish accent on every word you don't know.
Anytime you see des, D-E-S, days.
Unless it's French, which would be like de.
Oh, de? That's right. Anyway, the SIA in Canada holds the title for the longest continuous hiking trail in the world. That's right, stretching over 4,700 miles. That's nearly the distance from New York to L.A. If you really feel like a challenge, you can go do that one. This is interesting. I found this very, very interesting. Hiking is one of the best full body workouts.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That's right. Hiking may seem like it's all about the legs, but it actually works your entire body. As you climb, your core engages to help with balance and stability, and your arms are also getting a workout if you have trekking poles. Adding backpacks in the mix, and you're engaging your shoulders and back muscles as well.
I get that, because after we've had some heavy-duty hikes, where I am doing a full-on backpack.
Back's hurting.
Right, everything hurts. Like, you're sore the next day.
Right. The hiker's high is real. When you hike, your body releases endorphins, those feel-good hormone. For many people, this natural high can be even more intense than what you get from running or other forms of exercise. So it's a real thing. Hiking boots have been around for a century. While modern hiking boots are recent development, humans have been creating specialized footwear for walking on rough terrain for thousands of years.
Really? That's interesting.
The ancient peoples used seal skin boots for traction on snow and ice, while mountaineers in the 1800s began using early versions of leather hiking boots.
As we were here in this Arctic tundra that is southern Tennessee a couple days ago, and we were walking and I had my big sheepskin, furry, fuzzy boots on, I was wondering, how did people keep their feet warm back in the day?
Sealskin.
Sealskin.
There you go.
Sealskin.
Or they just didn't go out.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. As little as 30 minutes of hiking each day can greatly improve cardiovascular health, reduce stress, and boost your mood. Hiking can actually help you live longer.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right. Regular hiking helps to reduce the risk of heart disease, improve mental health, and maintain healthy weight. All those factors contribute to a longer life, according to the study from the American Heart Association.
So for all those people out there that have ever been around that person that looks at you and says, "Go take a hike," they were actually trying to help you out.
That's right.
Where is the button?
That's exactly right.
I'll give you both.
So much love.
All right, so this one I really enjoyed because I had no idea. Those trail markers that you see on the the red and blue and green on the trees and different things like that. Okay, in some region, trail markers they're known as blazes. I didn't know that. That's something new to me. So blazes were used during the Civil War to guide runaway slaves along the Underground Railroad.
Oh wow!
The blazes help people find safe houses and paths towards freedom. This piece of history adds a powerful layer of the meaning to hiking trails across the U.S.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That gave me chills. That's neat.
That's really
Absolutely.
cool.
Hiking can improve your sleep, and there are several, I'm not going to go into all the details, but there are several different volcanoes across the world that you can actually hike on, so you get a different perspective of hiking.
I don't think I'd want to hike. The closest we got, so 2, 3. Have you guys hiked in or around volcanoes?
Not active ones.
Yeah, not active ones. I don't believe.
Not
there's
active.
Like a lot of not active ones in the, the
Pacific
Cascade
Northwest.
area.
Yeah, there's
So I guess kind of near.
Mount Rainier is not active, right?
I don't know.
Yep. Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier is a volcano, but it's not an active volcano. Well, I mean, it's active in the sense it's still down there, but it's not.
It's not like.
I don't know what the geological terms, whether it's active or not active, what that.
Yeah, because
right. What's the threshold?
we saw the one in Nicaragua that was blowing up steam.
We took a bus to the top of that one.
Yeah, and I said
though.
we didn't hike it, but then I guess we haven't hiked. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to hike a volcano.
The people.
That doesn't sound fun.
The people of Pompeii highly suggest us not doing that. Actually,
but
Or they would if they were
There
sure.
we go.
I was waiting for that.
That's right.
Yeah,
They'd be like, "Hey guys."
That's right. All right. Well, that's everything. And again, so that's all the fun facts. We're now going to dive into some of these favorite hikes. And again, we're going to kind of take turns between Thomas and Victoria and Caly and I. And we're just going to talk about now. All these are day hikes. These are not.
Well, except for one that Thomas and Victoria did, but we'll get there when we get there.
Well, most of these, except one, are day hikes.
All of these except one
are day hikes, meaning that it's going to be usually between 5, 6, 7 miles, that kind of range. Some of them are a little bit longer, but most of ours are going to be moderate. Most of Thomas, they're much younger now.
They're much younger. Those little whippersnappers, they've got all this energy. They're like, "We're going to do a 40-mile hike. It's going to be great."
Not that much younger.
I like that.
You keep saying that, but
not that much younger.
All right, so we're first going to head out to South Dakota, and this is one that Caly and I have done twice, and we just absolutely loved it. And this is Sunday Gulch Trail. This is in Custer State Park.
Yes.
And it's kind of tucked away behind Sylvan Lake. and it's about a 3.9 loop trail. And there's two ways you can do it. Of course, you can do a loop trail either way.
Either way.
But you know, a lot of people tend to do it counterclockwise, but we highly recommend, along with the rangers at Custer State
at the
Park,
park.
recommend doing it clockwise.
Yes.
And the reason we know this is because we have a whole podcast on Custer State Park
With a
ranger. With a ranger. The ranger highly suggested going clockwise,
Yeah.
which is what we did. And it is absolutely amazing. You want to tell them a little bit about the trail?
I do. So yeah, definitely start this trail. Again, it's tucked away behind the lake. And if you're standing there near the visitor center looking at Sylvan Lake, you're going to start on the left-hand side of the lake. So you're going to go around that way, kind of back behind the lake through this really cool like rock passageway, and then start heading left clockwise. But what I loved about this trail is in that area of the country, there's a lot of mica. And for those of you who don't know what mica is, it's a type of rock formation that is really thin and powdery and very sparkly. They use it actually in makeup for women. And so the trail is just covered in mica and mica rocks. And so it's just in the sunshine, you feel like you're walking on diamonds. It's incredible. And the trail starts off relatively easy. You're just kind of taking a nice stroll through the trees. You start heading down into the valley through the trees.
Into the Gulch.
Into the Gulch.
Sunday's
right.
Gulch.
Sunday's Gulch, yeah.
Sundays.
Even if you do it on a Monday, it's still Sunday Gulch.
Exactly.
Right.
But then you...
Yeah, y'all
I
are
had to do
on
it.
it today.
So, right? I know, we're on fire. So you get down into the Gulch, and then the really, really cool part of the hike is at the end, and you are, I don't want to say climbing, because you're not physically climbing. Why are you holding your hand up like you want me to stop?
I was gonna add to what you're saying.
Okay.
So again, what she's talking about. So this hike is rated from moderate to strenuous,
Yes,
and honestly, the 3/4 of the hike is very easy.
Is right.
It's the
It's
last, and it looks like it's about a 1/4 mile, but the last 1/4 mile is where you're going to be scrambling up and down boulders.
And they're not even rocks. They're massive boulders.
Right. And there are handrails and different things. You're going to be hopping across streams and small waterfalls, and you're pulling yourself up metal handrails and different things like that. But it's really the last half hour. But it's pretty challenging.
It is.
And, if you're not very mobile, I
would not recommend this hike. Right.
This last part does get a little bit sketchy.
Right. And that's why we recommend going clockwise, because honestly, it's a little bit easier to pull yourself up these rocks than it is to try to squat down on your bum and slide down or scoot down these rocks. So
That's
it's just a little bit easier to come up them than to go down them. Like we had her, I don't know if you can see her on the camera. Charlie is behind me. This is kind of her spot in podcasts. And she's a golden doodle, and we took her on this hike. And there were times on that last part we had to like push her little bum up these rocks and boulders to get her to get up.
And we actually have some video footage hopefully being played right now. But that's the other thing I wanted to bring out for those listening to the audio podcast. Definitely, if you're interested in these hikes, check out the YouTube video, because we have a lot of great B-roll. Thanks to Thomas and Victoria, provide us a lot. We pulled to our collection. We've got I'm more of a still image kind of type of guy, so I have some
You're
still images.
Still.
But we did find some video. In fact, I do have a lot of video from Sunday Gulch. So, But there's a lot of different variety of wildlife there. You can see, of course, bisons, pronghorns, and wild turkeys. But it's all around great hike. So.
It really is. It's been honestly one of my favorite hikes that we've done over the years.
Okay, well, now we're going to head out to Virginia.
Yes.
And Thomas and Victoria, you want to tell us a little bit about McCaffrey Knob?
Yeah, Victoria, please.
So McAfee Knob is actually one of the first big hikes that I ever did. It's kind of the one that made me fall in love with hiking. And it's actually a pretty difficult one for it to be my first hike. It's about 8.8 miles out and back. And what made it even harder is that this guy woke me up at about 4 a.m. to go do it in the dark. So we could hopefully make it in time for sunrise.
Which we were close to making.
Super, super close.
Even, hoofing it up there, but just missed.
That's all right.
It was still really
very
pretty.
Yeah. Where's...
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, like, if you've never hiked in the dark before, we're going full headlamp setup and trying to make it up there. And even if you, are not afraid of bears, there's a little bit of concern in your brain because you can't see beyond the light of your headlight. You know,
it's a little bit intimidating. That's when we really got into bear safety. Got a bear bell, got bear spray. You just don't want to risk it out there.
Yeah. We do not risk it. But obviously, it's Virginia territory, so the Appalachian Mountains, it's black bears. It's not like that serious, but you know, a little bit of a concern. But when we finally got up there, there's just this awesome overhanging cliff where we got
which is the knob, McAfee's knob.
Yep. Technically, yep. And, you know, got some really great photos and videos up there. And, you know, we're able to sit down, enjoy our breakfast. And you just get this. What valley does it overlook?
I believe it is the Catawba Valley.
Yeah, Catawba Valley. And it's just an insane view.
Gotcha. Now, this
That's cool.
This is an out and back. It's saying 8.8 miles, and it's rating it from moderate to strenuous. Would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree. I don't know if it was just more challenging because you can't see where you're stepping, but for me, it was pretty challenging.
Yeah, I mean, and also because we were you know how you listen to a podcast that sped up a little bit to get through it faster? That's kind of what our feet were doing on the way up the trail.
We were rushing to make it in time for sunrise. But it is also part of what I believe is called the Triple Crown, so it is one of the more challenging hikes in that area. So.
Yeah. But it was worth it for sure.
Oh, and it connects to the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
Oh, very.
So kudos to you guys for doing this in the dark, and kudos to you, Victoria, for doing this in the dark. Because if Randy ever came to me and was like, babe, we're going to get up and hit the trail at 4 a.m. in the dark, I'd look at him and be like, yes, you are smoking crack. I love you, but I will be here in bed. Tell me how it went.
I've seen so many really cool things because she won't. Yeah. I've seen so many cool things because she can't get out of bed.
Nope.
I watched sunrise over Monument Valley, and that was really one of those life experiences that you should never miss. But again, we had to get there. I had to get there. I think I showed up.
And
at
do you
5
know
in the
how
morning.
I saw it? This was great.
She saw it from the video that
No,
I shot.
I saw it from the RV. I literally rolled over, pulled the blind up. I was like,
From
ooh,
bed.
look at the sunrise. And then put the blind back down and went to sleep.
It's not the same.
Totally the
It's
same.
not the same. Nothing gets in the way of. I keep
with
telling
you,
her when
Randy.
she's dead, she can sleep. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, so we're going to go out to Arizona now, and
Yes.
we're going to be spend a lot of time in Arizona on this show.
Yeah, there's a
But-
lot of great hikes there.
This is one that Caly really enjoyed,
I
and
did.
there are so many great hikes in Sedona. Unfortunately, we went during COVID,
The vid.
and so there was many of the trails that were closed, many of the popular trails that were closed, which we were very upset about.
Yeah.
So we picked this one here, and it was, I guess because we didn't have any expectations, it surprised us. So why don't you tell everybody about Munds Wagon Trail there in Sedona?
Yeah, I think what was so surprising about it for me is that we were in Sedona. And for anybody who's been to Sedona, you know it's arid and it's a lot of red sandstone everywhere. And the Munds Wagon Trail, it kind of set down like in a little crevice, an old creek bed. So there were trees. So we were in Arizona, but we were under tree cover most of the time. It followed the old creek bed because they had recently had rain. A lot of the sandstone creek bed was holding good-sized pools of water. So we had our 2 boxers with us at the time, and they loved it because they'd get hot, but then they could run into these pools of water and cool off. We had shade, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. Is it wasn't overly strenuous. It was just a beautiful, enjoyable hike. You know, you have hikes where you're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna conquer it, and then you have the let's go for a hike. Let's just go for a nice walk through the woods or through nature, and that's what I liked about this hike. It was one of those nice walks through nature.
Yeah, it's rated as moderate. It's 3.5 miles out and back, and during the hike you can see Cathedral Rock, Courthouse Butte, and a few other things. But this is an old path that the earlier settlers used to take,
Which is super cool to think
about.
about all the feet that have crossed that.
Wow.
You've got a lot of, and I'm just reading
that's
notes
really
here.
crazy.
Panoramic views of the surrounding
Yeah.
red rocks, and it's great for photographers and history buffs as well. So.
Very cool. Yep. So that's why I enjoyed it. Is it
That
the
is very
most
cool.
strenuous, awe-inspiring hike you're ever going to go on? No. But I think if you're in the Sedona area, check it out because it is one of those nice just be in nature hikes without killing yourself.
That's right.
Yes. Now we're going to go back to these young whippersnappers.
Checked out that one.
Yeah.
yeah, you have to check it out. So now we're going to move out to Washington. And forgive me for saying, you young little whippersnappers, but you guys do some seriously like amazing and kind of strenuous hikes. And this one's out in Washington, and is it the Colchuck? Is that how you pronounce it? Colchuck Lake?
Yeah. Colchuck Lake hike. And this, and we apologize because, you know, we came up with a list of our favorite ones, but they also happen to be very challenging.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, sometimes you got to work for that reward.
Yeah.
But that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you need a little bit of a challenge for a great hike.
Exactly. Yeah. It's good for the soul. So we actually visited Leavenworth, Washington during their Oktoberfest celebration, which is the largest Oktoberfest celebration in Washington. Well, while we were there, not too far from there was this Colchuck Lake hike. It's one of those kind of bucket list hikes that you see a lot of like Instagrammable pictures about. But it is challenging. It was 8-ish miles.
8 miles.
Yeah.
And you work for it. There's a lot of elevation gain, but once you get up there, there is a beautiful blue glacier lake, and it's actually known as the Gateway to the Enchantments, which is a way longer hike that we did not do, but it's a series of these beautiful glacial lakes that you can hike amongst. But we happened to show up during one of the first snowfalls, and it was absolutely gorgeous with the clouds over the mountains. It looked like Mordor. Like, it was awesome.
It was very cool.
Oh, and also during the summer, you can jump in the lake, and apparently during the winter as well, because there were crazy people jumping in there whenever it was below freezing weather. So
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's
right.
nuts.
And you said
Did you
it
send them that
perfectly,
video?
Victoria. Crazy people.
We should be running all those videos right now that you sent us. But All Trails has it officially at 8.7 miles with 2,342
y'all
foot
are crazy, okay?
gain.
23. If Randy came up to me and was like, okay, first you hit me with a 4 a.m. hike, okay, Thomas, not happening. Now you hit me with a 2,300 elevation gain. I'd look at Randy and I'm like, have fun alone. A-L-O-N-E.
That's brutal. That's
It's
brutal for
Listen,
almost
you
9
guys,
Thomas,
almost
well,
9
this
miles.
one, he was sick. Yeah, I woke him up and I was like, we're going anyways,
my
because it's on
gosh.
my bucket list. We have to go before we leave Washington. He's kind of feeling crappy, and about a couple miles in, he's like really not feeling well.
Yeah.
So he is a trooper. He made it through for me.
I will say, though,
I have
I mean,
been
we mark
there.
it as strenuous. I'm sorry, we mark it as strenuous, but we saw plenty of older folks, much older than us, doing this. And
Passing by us.
probably
It's
taking
embarrassing.
less breaks than us. But some of these, like, PNW area hikers, they're crazy like that.
Oh, yeah.
Serious
Oh,
hikers.
yeah. It's like when we were in Norway, they hike just because they can hike, and we were on some pretty strenuous hikes, and the Norwegians are just like, oh, hello, good day, how are you? And we're going, you're fine. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, looking at the videos here that you sent, I mean, this is an amazing,
it's beautiful.
amazingly beautiful place. I would
Beautiful.
love to go. I might be hiking it by myself,
He
but I'm
might
going to
be
do it.
alone. I will just look
We'll
at
go with
the
you.
fabulous
Yeah.
pictures.
Maybe I'll invite you guys up to come hike it with me. But all right. Well, moving back down to Arizona, this is one, it's not so much the hike itself, it's the destination when you
Yes,
get there. So
correct.
this is an out and back. And what we're talking about is the wave down in Arizona.
wave.
Now, if you're not familiar with what the wave is, the wave was made famous from the screensaver of Microsoft Windows back in the 90s or early 2000s, somewhere in that time frame.
And it literally looked like this like swirly, red sandstone, like swirly kind of thing. Rock. I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So
swirly rock sandstone.
yeah, so it's sandstone. It's swirling. It takes different shades of what do you say? Reds, yellow,
oranges, pinks,
right.
yellows.
And the reason we're describing it, all those watching the YouTube video, you can see it up here on
Right,
the
you're
screen.
like, oh,
but
yeah.
those that are in their car listening to the audio, we're trying to kind of explain it to you.
We're
But
painting a beautiful picture.
this is a moderate to strenuous hike. I don't think it's really strenuous. It's more about navigation. It's difficult.
Navigation is very, very challenging on this hike.
You're completely out on the elements.
Yes, and let's back up a few steps because this is a hike that you have to have a permit for. If you do not have a permit, you cannot do this hike. They restrict it, and we've read about a bunch of different things. Anywhere from maybe 25 to 50 people a day can do this hike. You have to apply in a lottery, attempt to get a pass. If you get a pass, then you have to go through a safety course. If you do not do any of this, you cannot do the hike. They do have rangers on the hike that will turn you around and push you away if you've not done all of this.
Yeah, this is a very, very popular hike.
Yes, this is an Instagrammable, we got to do this hike.
Yeah. And to give you an idea, so 6 months prior to when you want to hike, you can apply then. We did that. I got declined. I didn't get picked. And then once you're there, you can apply every single day that you're there and try to get the permit. And so the first day we got into the Arizona, Utah area, I applied, got declined. So then the third time I said, Caly, you know what? You apply, I apply. So
Guess who got it?
The next day I got it declined for a third time,
this
and Caly got it.
That's right, because I'm special.
And you've got to pay $5 every time you apply. You've got to pay $5, but that's the only fee associated with it. Once you get accepted, then you have to go through the safety course, get your permit. Now we will say that you do have to wear a tag.
Yes,
there are
visible
rangers
on your bag. You have to have a certain amount of water with you, and rangers are literally on the trail checking this.
Yep.
So you can't not skimp it. And through the course, a lot of the course was, if you don't bring enough water, you're going to die. If you don't follow the guide we're giving you exactly, you're going to die. You know, and the biggest challenge of this hike was the fact that you are walking across all the it's just this big sandstone field, for lack of a better term.
When you're hiking on the sides of mountains,
right? Like sandstone mountains. So there's no path, there's no marker, there's nothing to say, you know, this is where I turn left. There's nothing to mark it. You're just
right. When you part of your meeting, when you go through the safety meeting, they give you actually a printed paper that shows pictures of your markers, like, okay, and they call them like Dolly Parton mountains.
Her mountain, you know, her mountains.
Yeah. And so they have pictures. Look for that. We found it easier. It's in All Trails. It's actually in Google
Maps.
Just download the trail park. It'll take you straight there. So I was going to say it's fairly easy, like I said, other than the navigation part, until the very last maybe half mile.
Maybe even quarter of a mile, because it is all sandstone. When you actually get to the wave, there is so much very loose, deep
to the bottom
sand.
of the wave. You're not quite at the wave.
You're not at the wave. And you have to climb up this very loose, deep sand in order to get up to the wave. That part was challenging, because imagine walking up a very deep, loose sand dune, and that's exactly what you're doing to get up to the wave to see it.
But once you get up there, it's breathtaking. It's something bizarre. It's
beyond otherworldly.
Anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're like in this like cavernous dish bowl of sandstone formation and all these different striations of pinks and oranges and yellows and creams, and it's just striated and beautiful and very smooth and sloping. And so it's so incredible. You take just a couple of steps and your eyes completely change perspective of what you're looking at, and you get a completely different view just literally by taking a few steps.
Thomas and Victoria, you said you've not done this hike, correct, if I remember right?
So we applied to do this and did not get it, but I gotta tell you, the way y'all just described that was
magical.
Top notch. Because we have obviously seen all the pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that was very descriptive, y'all.
Yeah, it's definitely on our list to try to get a permit for next time we go to Arizona, though.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think the wave. I honestly think the wave is one of those bucket list ones. I think that in your life you should do it.
You should.
And honestly, other than the last quarter mile leading up to the actual wave, it's fairly easy. If you download All Trails map or even do the Google map and download it, you're going to get right there, and that becomes a thing. But you are open to the elements, so you got to take plenty of water.
Tons of water.
You might need a high clearance vehicle to actually get to the trail, especially if it's raining.
Because they tell you that you really do need a high clearance 4x4 vehicle, because they do get random flash flooding and rains that part of the road can wash out and has washed out.
Well, we actually went down through some dry creek beds too, and so I imagine if it rained, that could get kind of
and
a little challenging.
We have a Jeep, so Jeeps just kind of look at that stuff and go, "Ha, yeah, let's do this." So that's handy. But yeah, you even need the right vehicle to even get out there to do the hike.
Right. I think that covers all of it. I mean, it's a hike I would highly recommend. If you're going to the Zion National Park or even Grand Canyons or Page, Arizona, anywhere in
Kanab.
that,
Kanab, Utah.
you're going to be in that area.
Love Page.
I would apply every single day to get on this hike.
Yeah.
Yes,
I gotta
say,
it's
we-
a beautiful,
Yeah.
cute little town.
Yep.
And we saw that photo on the cover of y'all's magazine, and it is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
Aw, thanks.
it's crazy. It's crazy because your eyes play tricks on you, and I
Yes.
literally had to put Caly in the foreground to be able to give you some kind of perception because your brain just can't.
It can't
reconcile
comprehend
it.
how
Yeah,
big
right.
it
it's
is.
so
And
big,
then what's
yeah.
so trippy is one of the pictures we took that wasn't in the magazine is Randy's like, just jump. So I jump and I put like my arms and my legs up. And it literally, okay, white girl can't jump. So I hit maybe a whopping 3 inches off the ground. But in this picture, it looks like I'm
she's 20 feet in the
floating
air.
20 feet
Yeah.
in the air. It is the most insane thing. It is so trippy how
That's
your
pretty funny.
brain was just like, what?
Well, and it's funny because I had, I took the picture, so I knew how high she jumped, and it wasn't playing tricks on my brain. Let's just say it that way. But I had somebody I posted on Facebook, and one of my friends said, "How the heck did you get her to do that?" And I'm like, "What is she talking about?" And I went back and looked at the picture. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it does look
It
like she
looks
just jumped like 30
I'm like
feet
10
in the air."
feet in the air. It's so
We'll
crazy.
post it here
Yeah.
on YouTube if I can find it and get it to Bo. But yeah.
Yeah, and
Roy,
again,
to see
remember
that.
my vertical skills are not great. That was like 3 inches off the ground.
yeah. And then the
Haters
only
will
other
say it's
thing, we'll tell the
Photoshopped.
story really quick, but
Yeah, right.
yeah. So I'll tell the story really quick. We've said this before on one of the other podcasts, but we'll breeze through it. But we were going out there with the intention of getting a cover shot for the magazine, which we did. But I asked Caly to bring a dress, and I figured we would shoot her too, not thinking that we'd put her on the cover. But we got her all dressed up, and she comes out in this big, long, flowing blue dress, and then she
Hair
was
and makeup did in the middle of the hike.
So I get out my professional lens, and I've got a 70 to 200 Sony lens on, which is a pretty big telephoto lens. And so this Asian girl, there was this group of Asians, maybe 8-10 Asians, and I'm talking about not from California. I'm talking about these.
Yeah,
they were
like
from
Asian.
China
Right.
or somewhere in that
Yeah.
area. But the lady came up to me like, "Is she famous?" and I was like, "Well, we're taking a picture for a cover of a magazine." And then she spoke in Chinese, I believe, to all her buddies, and everybody started taking pictures of Caly.
Yes!
So
Yeah,
I'm in the
they're like-
middle shooting. I've got all these people all around me standing up, taking pictures.
It was hysterical. Like I look up the rock because Randy is like crawled up the side of this rock, and all of a sudden I see like a line of 10 people taking my picture, and I'm like, okay.
Caly, you don't know it, but you're really famous in Taiwan.
I am.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
am. They're like, oh,
Exactly.
that girl at the wave.
Yeah, it's Caly's 10 minutes of fame. Yeah, you got about as much famous as a Hak Tui girl there for
Right,
about 10
exactly.
minutes.
Hot tui, and she's gone.
Yep. All right. So we're gonna head back up to Washington. There's so many beautiful hikes in
Yes.
Washington. Why don't you tell us about the 5.5 mile loop trail, the Skyline Trail that you guys did?
Yeah, so this is actually in Mount Rainier, and for a couple of years, this one was our favorite hike that we had ever done.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will be replaced by one that we'll talk about here in just a little bit, but this one, another, I think they call it moderate to strenuous in terms of elevation gain, because it's quite a bit. How much elevation is that?
It doesn't say, but I know right off the bat it feels like a lot. So the front end's pretty struggle, or is a struggle, but then once you get up there, it's not too bad. It has a little up and down, but I would say most of the elevation's front end.
Yeah, so it kind of starts off at the Paradise Visitor Center. And that's where you'll kind of jump on the trail to get up there. There's several trails that come off that as well, but this one will take you up to Panorama Point, which I think is right around, like, right under 7,000 feet. And once you get up there, you just get the most amazing view. You can see Mount Jefferson, Mount Adams, Mount St. Helen. It was a little hazy. We went at a really good time of year in October, so the foliage was all the reds
Yes.
and yellows and oranges, and
But unfortunately, it was also wildfire season, or towards the end of it, and so it was a little bit hazy. Couldn't get as good of a view, but it was still amazing.
right, yeah. And honestly, this again was where we thought it was difficult, but there was some folks older than us just breezing right by us. So if they can do it, we can do it. You can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at the All Trails. It has it officially at 1,450 feet elevation gain. Your highest point's at 6,800 feet. So, yeah, that's a pretty good one, too.
That's a good one.
1,400 feet, 1,450 feet is no joke. That's a serious increase.
So one thing I've learned from our podcast so far is if the four of us hook up in person and you guys are like, hey, you guys want to do a hike? We're going to pick the hike.
Oh. But it's totally worth it. It's one of those hikes that once we were through it, I wanted to take all of my friends on it. It was absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to take everybody back to Tennessee.
Where we are.
We're
not
not
here.
here.
Well, we're here, but not here.
This
here.
is what I would call like a staple hike. Like
Yeah.
you got time, go do the Abrams
Yeah.
Fall hike. I mean, it's really a fun hike. This is not like the Wave or the Lake one that you just Colchuck, right? Colchuck Lake.
Colchuck.
This is just it's a fun all around. It's a very popular, very busy
Very
hike.
popular.
But it's we're talking about Abrams Fall, and this is actually in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And as I've said to Caly many times, that kind of the worst part of this hike, and I hate to start off with the worst part, but I want to give everybody a realistic idea.
Right.
Is what's the loop road? Cades Cove.
Cades Cove. It's
So
the
this-
Cades Cove loop.
Anybody
drive.
that's been to Smoky Mountains know
You're
they
like,
probably have a
Cades
love
Cove.
and a hate relationship with Cades Cove. Now,
Right.
this if you don't know what we're talking about, let us explain. So this is a very narrow one-way
Yes.
road that
Skinny,
takes you
skinny,
out
one
into
lane.
This takes you out into the, would that be the western part or the eastern part?
I don't know. You're asking the geographically challenged girl.
I believe it's the western part of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, but it's the western part, and it's where you see the most bear sightings, you see the most wildlife sightings.
Yeah.
But this is basically a wildlife loop, is what it is.
It is because what it is, it's literally surrounded by the Smoky Mountains, and it's this little valley. And the loop trail the loop drive goes through this valley. So there's a lot of flat areas and open plains and fields
For people to
it's-
view.
Right. So it's very easy to see wildlife in this area.
Yeah, so that in of itself is not a bad thing.
No.
It's just when you have tourists on there and they see a
They're
squirrel,
like a squirrel.
they
and
will
everybody
literally
stops.
stop and 20 cars will pack up.
And everybody gets out of their cars, grabs their cameras to go take a picture of a squirrel.
It is nuts. You've heard of bear jams in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's heard of it. This is like any kind of living animal that's walking,
Yes.
that kind of jam.
Yeah.
But I've seen it stop for
Hours.
for deer,
Yes.
for birds,
for bunny rabbits, for somebody thinks that they saw a shadow that maybe could have been maybe
Right.
something, but they're not quite sure, so everybody has to get out and look.
We did get stuck on one for a black bear, and that was worth waiting
Yeah,
for. But
we did see
anyways,
that.
so the point is it could take you a little bit of time to get to the
Actual
parking
hike.
lot
Right.
of Abrams Fall, and so that was one of the most frustrating. I remember one morning we went there, and it took us probably 40 minutes to get through Cades Cove to get to the beginning of the hike, and so that can become somewhat frustrating. But we had another time where we went straight
Yeah,
through.
we breezed straight through.
So it's kind of a hit or
So
miss.
just prepare. If you make it a thing, if you make it like, hey, we're going to go do the Cades Cove trail drive and just experience that, knowing that we're going to stop and then do the hike, then it's not that big of a deal. You're prepping for it.
Right, but
Set
on the
expectations.
trail here, you go through the lush forest. It's filled with rhododendrons, hemlock trees, and you hike alongside of it's Abrams.
I think it's
Creek.
Abrams Creek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
creek or lake or river. Maybe it's
Can't
river.
be a lake, but
Well,
we
no, I
could
know it's
call
not
it
a
a
lake.
creek.
I think it's a river.
You know
I think
what?
it's Abrams River.
I am going to Google, Randy.
Your notes say creek.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, could be. But it's just absolutely beautiful. You go up 3 ridges. So you go up, top of a ridge, you come back down, you go up, and you come back down, you go up a third time and come back down. And then you're finally, is it a creek?
Well, it is, but it's Mills Creek. We're Mill Creek.
So we're both wrong.
Yeah, we are both wrong. And the Falls Trail follows Mill Creek.
Nothing but facts here on the RV
That's
Destinations
right.
podcast.
We are 100% factual on this podcast.
At least when we're wrong, we admit it.
That's right.
All right.
Right.
So, but anyway, so you
Mm-hmm.
follow along. Yeah, see, it says right here in my notes,
What?
Abrams Creek.
By the
So-
well, I don't know what to tell you because I'm looking at Google, which shows the creek, the trail going along Mill Creek. Unless this spits, because Abrams Creek goes that way and the trail goes this way.
Do
Okay.
you trust Google or ChatGPT?
Yeah,
With
good
this
point.
Google, and Google never lies. ChatGPT, I am learning it lies.
No, I remember
yeah.
talking to a ranger, and it was saying it follows along the Abrams Fall or Abrams Creek, and then it's Abrams Fall. Why would they say Abrams Fall comes off of Mill
maybe
Creek?
Maybe they named it something wrong.
Anyway, again, we'll move on, but it's such a spectacular hike. It's 5 miles out and back. It's rated at moderate. And some of those ridges are you might get your heart rate up, but I don't think it's anything that the average person can't do.
And I just want to let you know that I might have scrolled a little bit forward into the map to see that it did turn into Abrams Creek.
Yes.
I'm not that I'm going to say that out loud and say that you were right, Randy.
Holy.
No.
Hey, cut that
Moving on. Don't you press that button, sir. Oh, you're pressing the button.
And now we're returning to regularly programmed schedule.
Oh my goodness.
Wait. We got to mark this day. Somebody out there mark down. What are we at? January
it's already
26th.
gone. The moment is gone.
My wife has admitted she was wrong.
And I did not. I admitted Google was wrong.
Notating this. I'm going to hold this against you. But anyway, it's a gorgeous hike. Definitely worth it.
Yes, it is.
The Cades Cove for me was the only negative thing. We've done this 3 or 4 times. You want to tell them
at
about
least.
You want to tell them about our friend we met on the trail when we were hiking there?
And see, look, we have a lot of excitement. So what's your puppy's name?
So we got a Barley and an Oreo. Here's the Oreo.
Oh, hi, Barley and Oreo.
Sorry, they
Hi,
got a little
Oreo.
excited about
Oreo.
a passerby, and anybody that lives in an RV knows that somebody walks right by the RV
yes.
and they get excited.
It's unavoidable.
Sorry about that.
Well, our Charlie, our golden doodle, is like, oh my gosh, there was a shadow, and she barks.
They're actually being surprisingly very
They're
quiet.
so quiet right now.
I walked them for 4
Well,
miles.
so were
I better
they up
be,
until
but-
that moment.
So tell them about our guests. Tell them about the guests we met on the trail.
So we're on this side trail. Randy had to take a little tinkle in the woods. So we're on the Abrams Trail. We kind of take a little side path so he can go off and tinkle in the woods. And we're facing each other on this path. He's done with his business. And he looks over my shoulder and very calmly goes, oh, there's a bear. Like, just matter of fact. I turn around and there is this gigantuan black bear probably 20 feet away from us that looks at us, makes eye contact, gives a little head nod like, what's up? And then poof, just disappears over the edge of the hike and is gone, gone. So much so that Randy and I very quickly walked up to where this bear was, and you couldn't even see the trees or the branches moving anymore. I mean, this guy was just
he just slid down the mountainside, but he was a
He was
massive black bear.
huge.
I've seen quite a few black bears in my life, and he was the biggest black bear I've ever seen in my life. He was the size of a big grizzly bear. He really was.
He was massive. But
anyway,
thankfully, he wanted nothing to do with us.
He didn't want his picture taken because I was grabbing out of my backpack trying to get my camera.
On our one trip to Great Smoky Mountains, we saw 7 bears in one day, but they were all from the comfortable confines of the truck.
Yeah, and most of them were on the street. There were more bears than humans there. It's crazy.
Was that in Cades Cove, or was it all over the place?
That was just a drive through the park. I can't even remember what trails we did. It wasn't Cades Cove, but we did run into probably 4 bear jams throughout that drive.
So we know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. The struggle is real.
All right, so we're moving back out to Arizona, and we're going to take you to Romero Pools. Tell me about the pools.
So Romero Pools is a 5.5 mile. They say it's moderate to strenuous. I'd say it was pretty difficult. I think we made it harder on ourselves because we did it, in July, August, something like that.
Dead summer.
And like we said, it's in Arizona, so. But you go up into a canyon and you follow it along for a while and you see no water, and then suddenly you come across a bunch of tiered pools, and you can it's tall enough so you can stand under it and the water will fall on you. There's a couple little small waterfalls, but it's very relieving to get there whenever you've been walking through 90+ degree weather.
Yeah, I imagine that the hike would be more worth it if you did it in the spring when there's fresh snow melt coming out of the Superstition Mountains and stuff like that. So unfortunately, the pools weren't huge, but it was a huge relief to get out there when it's 90+ degrees. And in fact, we should have left in the morning. I think we did it dead middle of the day. And we really put ourselves in a pretty poor position throughout the hike. Yeah. So it was a nice relief to get finally get to the pools.
Oh, I bet. And this looks really cool. So I pulled up some images, and it's funny because I put in Romero Pools, Arizona, and I got a lot of pictures of swimming pools. So apparently Romero Swimming Pools in Arizona is a great company, I guess.
Nice.
So I had to put in Romero Pools Hike, Arizona, and now I'm getting the images. But yeah, this is really cool. It's one of those things for me personally, and maybe this is just me. I don't think of like waterfalls and big pools of water being in Arizona. So it's really so cool to see that. This is really neat.
Yeah, just like your hike in Sedona, sometimes the water is the best part of the hike in Arizona because you're not expecting it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and
Exactly.
you really appreciate it when you get water activities in Arizona, especially like dead middle of the summer,
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
For
Yeah.
sure.
All right, so we're gonna go out to Utah now, and I guess you're hearing a common theme here: Utah, Arizona, Washington.
Right. Out west, folks. You've got it, and we're not discounting that there's not incredible and amazing hikes all over the United States.
That's right.
Again, these are just some of our favorites, and they tend to be out west.
You know what? We had a couple great hikes in
Yeah, they
Georgia.
spread them out fairly well.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia, Virginia. We've even had some decent hikes in Florida, very flat Florida.
Right,
So,
flat Florida. Well, Kentucky, you have all of
Red River Gorge,
Red River
area.
Gorge,
Right.
which has amazing hikes. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to take you to, and this is one that we got to tell you a little bit of
This was a
backstory here.
surprise.
So we were maybe look up the trail we were going down. So we were wanting to take the trail that goes from one side of Bryce Canyon to the other side of Bryce Canyon, and we took, I can't remember the name of it. She's going to look and see if she can find it. But anyway, so we're going down this trail, and we get to the trailhead. So we had to hike probably a mile to get to the trailhead. Well, we get there, and it says it's closed due to maintenance on the trail. And so we're like, oh, great. We hiked all the way down, and I think it was about 1,000-foot drop down, straight down. And so we got to do something. So we continued hiking on, and we saw this trail called Peekaboo Trail.
Found it.
What was it called?
We were going to do the Navajo Loop.
Yes, that's what it was, the Navajo Leap. Now you say it.
Yep, that was it.
Yep.
I know, that's why I said it.
So look and see if you can find the elevation when you at the parking lot at the top and then going down.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was 800 to 1,000 feet. It was pretty good. It was pretty much straight down. But anyway, so we went a little bit further. We saw this Peekaboo Loop Trail, and we knew nothing about it. Again, we were planning on doing the Navajo Trail, and so we're like, let's do it. Why not? And so we started up. It was really there wasn't much to see when you probably the first half mile maybe. Started going up this ridge, and then we got into this section, and we were literally in the hoodoos within the first half mile, maybe 3/4 mile, something like that. And it was one of the most stunning hikes that we've ever done. Right, baby?
It was. Sorry, I was looking up. I was totally squirreling. But no, this was honestly one of my most favorite hikes. Now, keep in mind, like when you park, you're parking at the top of all these hoodoo thingamajiggers.
At the rim.
At the rim. And you've got to switch back all the way down.
I think it was 1,000-foot elevation.
So according to this, I was pulling it up, and I don't feel so great and wonderful now talking to Thomas and Victoria because it's saying it loses and gains 575 feet on this loop.
Okay.
To the Queen's Garden. So
Hey, that's still a challenge.
No, but what if it's not including the little trail that you took to get there? I wonder.
Right, exactly. And by the way, what are hoodoos?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hoodoos.
Do you want to explain hoodoos?
Yeah, so hoodoos. So you've got like spires, rock spires that are formed like on hard granite. So you just have this.
That's going to be like
individual spire
Custer
of
State
rock,
Park.
Like Custer State
if
Park.
you take Needles Highway up in Custer State Parks, those are called spires, and they're
Spires,
and they're limestone formations that just kind of spiral up into the sky.
The one is single one because of all the erosion, and that's what's left of the hard rock is left. So it's the same thing, but it's sandstone. So it's the loose sandstone that has been washed away and blown away, and the harder sandstone or limestone is left to create a spire, but instead they call it a hoodoo because it's made from sandstone.
Yep, that's right.
I just sounded super smart there.
Yeah, so
You did.
So-
and
Thanks,
I
guys.
appreciate the explanation.
right. But this Peekaboo Trail was it was incredible
Oh, it
because it
was.
puts you right into the canyon.
And you're walking at the base of these things. So you're looking up and you're just surrounded in all of these hoodoos. And then what was cool as well, because the trail, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. So you're up in them and they're down at the bottom, and then you're up in them. But we literally several times walked through a tunnel, a sandstone tunnel, to like literally peekaboo through and see all of these hoodoos off in the distance.
That's right. There was at least 2 or 3 sandstone tunnels we had to go through. But you know, the trail itself says 5.5 miles, but
That's
it doesn't
just that loop.
Yeah, there was probably at least a mile from the top down, and then we had like a mile from our car to the beginning of the trailhead.
Yeah.
So I think we ended up at about 7 miles or 7.5 miles by the time we were said and done.
Yeah, and if you remember, like, there's
Oh, wow.
multiple ways to get to this trail, but part of it was closed because of the time of year and weather and trail maintenance. So we kind of had to go back how we started. There were some other people on the trail. Please don't ever do this. Where the trail was closed, it was clearly closed, and they took that to get up to the parking lot a little quicker from a different direction.
Yeah, that's
So
uncool.
that is so uncool.
Yeah,
Just don't
don't
do
do
that,
that.
folks.
But But if you do it the way we did, you got to keep in mind you got that 575-foot climb, and you know what made that hard was not the fact that it was 575, but it was 575 feet, like within a quarter
straight
mile
up.
or something
It was
like that.
Like
I mean, it
you're
was
literally
quick.
standing at the bottom and you're looking straight up, going, "Okay, yep. Well, I guess we're gonna do this right now."
That's a workout right there.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, no. When it rises that quickly, it becomes a pretty intense
Mm-hmm.
workout. But you know, for those YouTube people watching the YouTube video here, you'll see all the different pictures and things that we have. For those audio, again, check it out. It's an incredible trail. But
It's incredible. Oh, but I am so excited for this next hike, and this is a Thomas and Victoria hike out in Arizona. This is on my bucket list, so I can't wait to hear about this. And this is the Havasupai hike. So the Havasupai Trail that leads out to that incredible, isn't it like a waterfall? But then there's so much more around this than just going out and seeing this hike. You guys had to stay there overnight, didn't you?
Yeah, this was definitely the most intense hike that I have ever done. He's done a couple of backpacking hikes where he stayed overnight, but I guarantee you it had no kind of elevation like we did.
Yeah.
So it's about 10-mile hike into the Grand Canyon, essentially, and the Havasupai tribe is the last remaining tribe that lives down in the Grand Canyon, and they get their mail delivered by mule. It's actually really cool. So it is also a permit hike, like you mentioned, the wave is. However, even when you win the permit, you still have to pay money to stay there. So it's not cheap. I want to say it was like $900 for both of us to tent camp down there. But all of it goes towards restoration of the area. I know, right? Yeah. But making the place look beautiful and helping fund the tribe and everything. So it is definitely worth it.
Yeah, this one it was a 3-night camping trip essentially. And the way it starts is you start over at the Havasu hill area, and you hike down 3,000 feet into the Grand Canyon. It's about 10 miles just to get to the camping area. And then once you're down there, basically you set up camp, and throughout the course of your time down there, you try and explore the surrounding waterfalls. I believe there's like
at least 5 big ones, and then of course there's little ones all around that aren't named.
Yeah, and this is that like turquoise water surrounded by like the red canyon all around you, and there's, you know, not like many places in Arizona, there's a ton of like green, you know, vegetation down in that
the
area.
Greens and the reds, it's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, but I would say that this is by far our hardest hiking challenge, and over the course of that time that we were down there, I think we clocked 36 miles before we got out back to the parking lot 3 days later.
That's crazy.
And to hike out, you got to hike right back up the canyon, and that is probably the toughest part.
Yeah, the last day's a little rough. You know, we were with a group that stayed up in the village.
So there's an option to stay in a lodge if you do not want a tent camp, but that
it's
is
super expensive.
over $2,000 per like room in the lodge. So.
Right, and of course we did this kind of the hard way. Is we backpacked with all our stuff in, and if we're being honest, we were overweight for sure. At least my shoulders and legs felt it by the time we got down to the campground. But you do have the option to have a mule take your stuff down and you can hike down in. Or if you're feeling real bougie about it, you can take a helicopter in, and that probably takes like 5 minutes.
And I guarantee you that's probably what Beyonce did when she went down there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So how far in advance did you guys have to plan to get into this?
So we actually lucked out on our first try. I happened to take a nursing assignment in Arizona, looked up the waterfall permits, and they popped up like the next week. So I went ahead and put our names in, and we lucked out. So I think it opens right about now, at the end of January, beginning of February. And I think they only, how many, is it 500 people?
I think it's they're allowing 500 people down in there at a time. And it's, you'll see people coming out as you're going down in the day that you're scheduled. So there's always someone down there.
Yeah, but you do have the option of possibly picking up drop tickets throughout the season as well. So if you don't get into the lottery, just keep your eyes out there in the area.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's definitely on my bucket list.
I think we're gonna have to fly down with a helicopter. Though.
I will totally Beyonce it.
The reason, the problem with us is always the dog.
The
Like, what do we do with the dogs for 2 or 3 days?
Did you guys have your dogs at the time, and what did you do?
No. So you're not allowed to do that. And actually, I don't know what y'all normally do with the dogs, but we use RVer, and when it comes to some multi-night trips like that, it is not cheap. So.
No.
We like that better than a kennel because one time they came back with kennel cough and it made us very, very sad. So now we just do RVer and let them stay in other people's homes.
We're obviously in a similar situation. We have the 2 dogs, and we're
traveling far away from home, so we don't have friends and family to watch,
never close to friends and family that we can dump them off on. So it is a little bit of a challenge. We did end up leaving them back in Lake Havasu, which is where we were at the time. And they had a great time. We do recommend RVer. We've never actually had a bad experience with them.
Knock on wood.
Oh, good.
Right.
So far.
There we go.
That's good to know because we've thought about using them a couple times but never pulled the string.
No,
so.
we were a total segue. Side note: we were in Columbia Falls, Montana, and through the RV park, we learned of a woman who had started a business in the area that would come to homes and RVs and watch your dog. And it was all through this incredible app. So it was kind of like RVer, but she was independent and she had a small team that she vetted. But it was great. We had to be on an all-day fly fishing trip for the magazine. And we were gone for probably 10 hours and used her. And she came over several times, took pictures, sent us pictures. We were notified through the app of when she, came to the RV and left. So it was really cool. It was a great experience.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they did that with RVer too. I love that.
Yes.
Yep. So we're moving on to now. This is a hike that both Thomas and Victoria have done, and
not
I've
me.
done.
Right. So I'm the oddball here. So you guys have fun talking about this one. I wanted to do it, but couldn't because of recent rains.
It was raging. The Virgin River was raging.
The Virgin River was raging.
Yeah. So we're talking about the Narrows in Zion National Park, and this is an incredible hike. It's a very popular hike.
And it's literally up the Virgin River, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Up the Ritter.
So you get off the last stop on the bus, and you just walk over to where the Virgin River is, and you start walking up the river.
It. Is there even like here, start here, or is it just like plop in the river and start walking?
You pretty much. I think there were signs, but
okay.
But yeah, you pretty much just. Was there signs? Do you remember signs?
I think there was a sign, but
you follow the crowd. Everybody's walking
there's
up the
so
river.
many people there. Just be a sheep.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Just follow the herd, folks.
Right.
That's right.
But basically, this is, and we've got some videos showing up here right now. But you're hiking up the Virgin River, as we said, but the canyon walls are just magnificent on each side of you. So you're hiking through this canyon in the actual water. So it's highly recommended that you wear water shoes. A lot of people are just taking off their shoes and going barefoot, but you want some kind of trekking pole or stick or something like that because the rocks do get very slippery. But what? Tell us a little bit about your experience there on the Narrows.
I wouldn't recommend going barefoot at all.
Okay.
Because you are going to want traction. I mean, some people might be crazy and do that, but you are going to want traction on a lot of those slippery rocks.
Well, who knows what's on the bed of of the actual river. But you can definitely rent all of that from
Right.
multiple suppliers in the area. It's usually not an issue unless it's crazy busy.
Yeah, I highly recommend making sure that you have a stick to like kind of use as a third leg in the river, because at a certain point you do get up to like waist high, chest high, depending on the flow of the water. But that's a big time help, for us unbalanced people.
Yep. And this is one of those hikes that you really have to pay close attention to the weather. They're usually every few years you have a couple people that end up dying because of flash flooding. The Virgin River, when we were there last with Caly,
I mean, it was literally raging.
It was like, I can't remember the gallons per second over, but it was something just unreal.
Astronomical.
It was like 10 or 20 times the amount of water
flow
that goes through it normally.
And
so they just had it
what
closed.
RV
And
park
that's
did y'all
very
stay at
frequently.
around there when you visited? Was it along the river, I wonder? Or along one of the creeks?
We actually stayed between Bryce Canyon and Zion. I can't remember
the name,
park.
but yeah, we were like halfway between the two parks. We've learned since then, if you are going to Bryce and Zion, just stay around Bryce and then move your RV and stay around Zion, because it just wasn't so fun driving an hour and a half in each direction.
Yeah, the campground we stayed at was a really cool campground. It was up in the mountain, but it was literally halfway between Bryce and Zion. We thought that was the smart move, and it turned out to be, it was like 35 miles, I think, to Zion, but then it was like 50 miles to Bryce, and it's just a long day drive if you got to drive that long and then go do a hike and then drive all the way back.
One of the most popular ones in the area is actually right along one of the creeks that is fed by that river, and it got washed out literally the month after we were there. It knocked out a whole bunch of RVs that got sloshed around, all because of flash floods. So those things are completely unpredictable.
Yeah, and that was over in Springdale.
Wow.
Yes, on Springdale side, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We were in that parking spot a month ago. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. So most people probably know this, but if you don't, Zion National Park is a wildly popular park. It's extremely busy.
Hugely popular.
They've implemented. They haven't implemented a time reservation system, but they do. Or at least not as of today, but they do have a bus system. You got to park your car, you got to get on a bus, and then the bus will take you through the park, which is common. Denali National Park, I think, is doing that as well, but and a few other parks are doing that. But planned for a lot of time. I remember we were there. We were doing a horseback ride, and it took us about 40 minutes to find a parking spot.
Yes, I mean, because you just circle, because they only have a couple parking lots, and so you just circle and circle and circle and circle and wait for those early risers to leave so that you can come in and get their spot.
Yep. And Narrows is probably Angel's Landing, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but Narrows and Angel's Landing are the two most popular hikes there, and so this does get extremely busy. Yeah. Especially during peak season in the summer. So definitely plan accordingly, and definitely watch out for the weather. All right, so now we're going to be heading up to Montana, and this is one Caly didn't do.
No,
well, you did part of it. That's right.
I did.
You went up to the Saddle one time.
Yes.
You've not done the whole Highline Trail.
No, because you and the boys were all like, we're going to go hiking.
You and the boys.
Because they were the boys.
Yeah,
they are the boys. Sorry, guys.
Boys.
But yeah, Trey and Evan.
Yeah, no, it's such a terrible thing that my son and my son-in-law went hiking with me. But anyway.
No. Okay, so totally, all you ladies out there are totally going to understand this. So all the guys, the boys, okay, so Randy and his son and son-in-law were like, we're going to go do a hike. And the girls are like, yeah, we're going to do a hike too on a girls' day. The guys go out and they're gone like 12 hours. Like they full on do like this ridiculously long hike. We got like 3 hours before they were all calling us like, when's dinner? When are you guys coming back? We miss you. Where are you guys?
That's not true.
It's totally true.
You're making
every woman out there is like, girl, yes, I feel your pain.
You're making up.
You've gotten really good with that button, I'll tell you what.
I've never used it before. That's my first time using it.
All of a sudden, he's like, I have a new button over
here.
But
anyway, we're talking about the Highline Trail. Caly's done part of it. So there's a place that's called the Saddle, which is about 3 miles in.
And where is this specifically?
This is in Glacier National Park, and this is one of those iconic hikes you have to do.
Yes.
It's probably the most popular hike in Glacier National Park. But
I would agree.
Basically, you go up, go into the Sun Road, and you get up to Logan's Pass Visitor Center. This is a very popular hike. The Visitor Center is very popular, so it fills up very quickly. But then you go right across from the Logan's Pass Visitor Center, and the trail starts right there. And so you can hike the first 3 miles, or roughly 3 miles, and that's up to what's called the saddle. That's what Caly did. But the full trail continues on, and it goes up to, you can go to the chalet. There's some chalets up there, or you can take a side trip before you get to the chalet and go up to Grinnell Glacier Overlook. And so the boys,
You and the boys.
us boys,
Yes, boys.
decided to do the Grinnell Glacier. So anyway, and this is All Trails is saying 14.9 miles. That sounds about right to me, because I think it was right
Because
around.
you guys cried for a good solid week about how much you hurt after that hike.
Yeah, so it's a 2,000.
Call them out.
Yeah, exactly. 2,620 foot climb in elevation, 14.9 miles, and it was 7 hours. They're recommending about 7 hours to do it. So now I'm learning very quickly that anything over like 9 to 10 miles, I hate myself, and so I don't know that I would do it again. I probably would. I'm just dumb. I've just got a big heart and no brains. But yeah. So this is I just can't even describe. We've got some video footage that should be playing now, but you first start off and you go along the hanging gardens. I believe they call it.
Like hanging gardens or garden wall. And what I want folks to know is when you first start off on this hike, you are literally on a path that's maybe 4 feet wide on the edge of a
cliff face.
The cliff face,
yeah.
Right? Correct. So it's on a ledge on a cliff face. So if you have any fear of heights, I would not recommend this hike. There are points where there's a chain you need to hang on to. It's very narrow. You have people going in 2 directions that you need to pass folks. So it can get a little hairy. But the section of the hike that I did up to the saddle was beautiful. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. It was absolutely beautiful. I have some pictures that I got of Randy where it literally looks like he's getting ready to just kind of like step off into space. Because it was
cool.
just,
Really
it was
cool.
beautiful. You're like on this cliff face. It was incredible.
Yeah. So the place that Caly talked about, it's funny because I did that hike before I did Angel's Landing, and we'll talk about Angel's Landing here in a minute, and then I did it after Angel's Landing.
And it's totally different.
And after I remember the first time I did it, I was freaking out in that period because or the first time I did it before I did Angel's Landing, I was freaking out because it is like 3-4 feet, and
Right,
you do
and you're
pass
passing people. Right.
But as you're going out, you got a chain you can kind of hold on. As you're coming back, you don't have that chain because you're against traffic. But when I did it after Angel's Landing,
It's
I was like, this is a piece of
easy
cake.
peasy.
I'm like, what was I even worried about? This is crazy.
Exactly.
But it's not. But it's not.
Yeah, so it says 2,621 feet, and I think that is all coming back because you do have some uphill parts to it going out, but then you just start going downhill and downhill and downhill and downhill. And the whole time I was going down here, I was thinking to my son, or I was talking to my son and son-in-law, and I said, we're going to have to come out of this. You know that, right? and you're basically hiking. Yeah, right, exactly. You're basically hiking around a mountain on the ledge the whole way.
Yeah.
And then you get to this point where you can see the chalets off in the distance, or you can turn right and go up the Grinnell Glacier Overlook. Now, some weather had come in. We had perfect weather when we started the hike. We got up early. We got there at about 5 o'clock in the morning and started the hike. I think we got on the hike about 6 a.m., but by the time we got there, it was about noon, and weather had been rolling in, so the clouds rolling in. It started sleeting, and so we started hiking up. Now the going up to the Grinnell Glacier adds another 1,000 feet on top of this 2,620, so that would make it 3,621 in elevation.
Jeez.
So massive hike.
Goodness.
We, my son-in-law and I went up about halfway, and we were like, you know what? The clouds are coming in. The pain to pleasure ratio here is just not here. We're not going to see the glacier
Dissipating quickly.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's like I'm all about spending, going up the rest of the way up. But if we're not going to see anything, why expend that
Right.
energy? And so him and I decided we're just going to stop and wait. We were about halfway up, so I guess we're about 500 feet up. And we sat on a boulder and just waited to see if it cleared out. Well, it didn't. It got worse. My son's like, heck with you guys. It didn't come this far to not go all the way up there. So he went all the way up. And so we went back down to the main trail level and just waited for him. And he, ironically, first of all, you get no cell phone signal in Glacier National Park. Very rare. you might be like on top of a mountain. You might get a couple signals. Well, we did, and he texted me and said, "Hey, I'm making my way to the top." He got to the top and then came all the way down about an hour later and was like, "Yeah, you couldn't see anything." And so it was like, thank God I didn't expend that other energy. But so we started heading back from there. So we didn't go out to the chalet, and it's just breathtaking. We saw mountain goats. We heard of a few not encounters, but sighting of bears. We didn't see the bears. It's very common to see grizzly bears on this trail. Very, very common, in fact. It's stunning.
Maybe we
like
won't go on this one then.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well,
But it's so popular that there's enough people that I don't think the grizzly bear is going to mess with you.
And just don't hike alone. We were there 3 years ago with some friends, and right before we did the Highline Trail with these friends, there was a woman who had gone missing who was hiking by herself
on this hike.
On this specific hike.
Ooh, that's always scary when you hear their stories.
I know, and it was so sad because unfortunately she was not found alive. And they think what had happened. She slipped off the edge of the hike. Probably got hurt, couldn't get out. Nobody could get to her, and it was not a happy ending. So don't hike alone is the moral of the story.
Right,
but don't hike alone.
I would say that if you're in good shape and can do 3,000 foot in elevation, do the whole hike, go up to Grinnell Glacier. The chalets are cool. I've not been there, but you could see them from a distance. We had somebody on the show, or actually, I'm sorry, not on the show.
Carrie Hanrahan.
We had, that's right, she did
Carrie
it.
Hanrahan.
But then we also had another writer that wrote about it in one of our issues. And they sound fun and all that. But I think the Grinnell Overlook might be the better. But again, you got an extra 1,000 foot on top of it.
You can see it.
Right. So if you're not in that kind of shape to do that, or you don't have time, hiking just to the what do they call the saddle is definitely worth it.
It's breathtaking. I did that. It's breathtaking. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. So in that hike, again, at 14.9 miles, they're saying about 7 hours. But all right, so moving on. Now this one sounds so much fun. This is in Oregon. I've not done any hiking in Oregon, but tell us about the Trail 10 Falls.
Yeah, no, we've done a couple of hikes in Oregon, but this one definitely stood out because if you can't tell by the name, you go by 10 Falls. So it's about 7.2 miles. It is a loop trail. We actually didn't do the entire loop. There is ways that you can stop off at certain parking lots and hike down to not every single waterfall, but some of the waterfalls. And so we did kind of a hybrid hike, but if you do the entire loop, you get to see all the falls and you can walk behind quite a few of them, actually.
Yeah, it's a really cool spot. Yeah, it's over in Silver Falls State Park, which I believe in terms of most visited, it ranks right at the top of the state parks in Oregon.
Yes,
but
for a reason.
This is, like she said, we kind of, due to our time, kind of bounce from trail to trail. We did end up seeing all 10 waterfalls, but if you're up to it, make sure you do the loop because it's pretty everywhere you go inside the state park.
What kind of elevation gain is on there? Do you know if I don't have?
I don't think it's brutal at all. There's a couple of trails that you got that it's steep for a little bit, but compared to the stuff that we're talking about and the hike that you were just talking about at 3,000 feet,
it is nothing.
This is one of the easier ones on this entire list.
And honestly, the most popular waterfall, I think, is at one of the main parking areas, and you can just walk down to it. So if you are
just drive up to it, walk down to it.
Maybe you're not filling up to it.
No, I'm pretty sure you could literally just pull up to like the little pull off area and just like do one of these over the. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. I'm pretty sure you could see it. But yeah, I mean, it's totally worth it, and it's close to the town of Silverton, which is like a really cute town to visit.
Love
it's got
little
like,
cute towns, little boutiques,
yeah,
little
shops
breweries.
and stuff. So you can kind of make like a day of it.
And it's only how far from Portland, you think?
Less than an hour from Portland.
So that
not
gives you a
bad.
jumping off point. It's not far.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so All Trails has it at 1,181 feet total elevation, 7.4 miles. They're saying it takes roughly about 3 hours and 21 minutes to do the entire loop. So.
Yeah.
That's not bad, really.
No,
Yeah, and there's even some of these pools from the waterfalls that you can jump in. There's at least 2 of them. So if it's like middle of the summer and you're hot, you're prepared, like go ahead and take a dip.
And I gotta say, I'm pretty sure the way we did it, they say like all of the waterfalls are on the front side of the trail. So like that's the best part of it. The rest of the loop, you're just walking through woods. So do with that information what you will.
Yeah,
if it's
right.
worth it.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds like we'll have to put that on our list.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
want to
fun.
spend some time in
know,
Oregon. I really do.
I do too. Like Oregon and Washington are two states. I've never been to Oregon. And I've only been tiny
Love it
bit in
there.
Washington, and I want to spend some time out there.
Of the 9 states that we've lived in, Arizona's at the top of our list
Number
because
1.
we like to be warm. So
Yeah,
it's a good
yes,
spot.
Until it
Amen.
starts to try to kill us, and then we really like Oregon.
Right. Oregon is definitely number 2 on that list. So I would highly recommend y'all
Until
go.
it
I love
starts to
that.
rain, and
We
then
like
we like
being
Arizona
warm until
again.
it tries to kill us.
Right.
Right, yeah, because it really does. 120 plus, yeah, that's too hot.
We try to flip flop between Southwest or Northwest because
Yeah.
I do love. We went out to the Olympic Peninsula several years back and.
Nice.
It was just gorgeous out there, and
It's-
lush and waterfalls everywhere.
Right.
You're not going to get those
But what's-
waterfalls in
What's interesting
Arizona
for
usually.
me, as I was just talking to my mom about this today, as I never realized how much I loved humidity until I went out
Ooh.
where it's very arid and dry. And then all of a sudden I get chronic nosebleeds and my skin's so dry and it's just constantly thirsty.
I have to disagree with you, Caly. I still hate humidity, and I love the dry
Really?
heat. I love you just gotta pack extra lotion, put a little chapstick on. Yeah, I kind of deal with it. Try to drink extra
See,
water, but
we're a little biased because we're from Charleston, South Carolina.
100%
All the
humidity
time.
all the time.
And-
You feel like you stepped out into the water.
You're
and-
not breathing air.
Right,
You're
exactly. You're like, oh, it
air in
tastes
the
good
summer.
today.
It's that heavy.
That's
Yeah. So we're cool with the dry.
all right. So moving on, this next hike, we should
Oh,
say this
yes.
hike frequently ends up at the top number 1 as far as dangerous hikes.
If you literally Googled most dangerous hikes in the world or in the United States, this will pop up.
Yeah, and this usually almost every year you have 1 or 2 hikers that lose their life.
Dun,
so
dun, dun.
we're preferencing. Why am I? I'm
don't-
saying it weird.
I don't know.
Preferencing.
Now you have me
That
saying it
sounds
weird. What
weird.
is it?
Prefacing.
Prefacing.
I was
Ooh.
adding an extra vowel in there
I know.
somewhere.
It only or a consonant
Yeah. All right, a couple extra consonants
or continents.
or consonants.
Golly.
Oh lordy.
Constantinople.
Yeah, exactly. I am all the way through my drink, but
I know. I'm like,
was just
I am,
number 1.
I am only 1 glass of wine down. This is scary.
We're over here jacked up on caffeine. We're on Pacific Coast time, so we're a little behind y'all.
All right, so we're talking about Angels Landing, and that is in Zion National Park.
Yes.
It is a wildly popular thing. This is another trail that needs a permit.
Yes.
The permits are a little bit easier to get than the Wave because they allow a lot more people to go up there. But trust me, when you're doing this hike, you don't want it to be crowded.
No, you do not.
We've heard horror stories of big long lines. This is back before they implemented the permit system of these huge long lines waiting to get up there. But it's I can't even begin to describe this. So this is in Zion National Park. You got to take the bus to get out to it. But it takes they're saying 4.3 miles, but that includes getting up to
Right,
the actual
because you go through this area. You do the Walters
Wiggles, which
and it's literally switchback. I mean, and I'm talking like straight up the side.
That wore
of
me
this.
out.
It did. It honestly did. And from there, you get up to Scout Lookout. So you got to wiggle. I can't say that. Wiggle through Walter. Wiggles.
Walter's Wiggles.
Walter's Wiggles. And then
they actually had 2 checkpoints, one at the base.
Yes.
Before we started going up. They checked permits there. That we check. You actually have to have timed entry when you come in.
They
So you get
did.
a permit and you say, okay, you're hiking at 9:30. They look you on the list, check you off. That was at the base before we
Yes.
even started.
before you start up the Wiggles
Right.
of Walter.
So all trails are saying 1,827 feet. That sounds about right, but it's, you get all that like in a really short time period. You're just going back and forth. Again, they call it Walter's Wiggle. But then you get to the top and you actually get to the actual spine of Angel's Landing.
Right. And that's at Scout Lookout. So you can okay, let's back up. You do not need a permit to go up the Walter's Wiggle
Right.
up to Scout Lookout. You
But-
do not need a permit to get there. But from Scout Lookout up to Angel's Landing, you have to have a permit.
Yeah. So the first ranger, I'm glad you brought that up because the first ranger at the base, it's checking your time entry and all that. But some people just said, hey, we're just going up to Scout's Landing or Scout's
Scout Lookout.
And they said that's fine, and they just let them through too. So I think that first one's just kind of a checkpoint, so to speak.
Correct.
But then once you get to the actual Angel's Landing hike, and it's only about a mile. I think it's not really that long of a hike.
It's not, but the best way to describe it, if you think of like a spine, literally a spine up and down your back, this is a spine up and down a cliff face.
No, it's the top of the mountain.
The top of the mountain.
It's
right,
the
peak
of the
mountain. So the spine of the top of that mountain, that is what you are crawling up.
Yeah. Before you get there's another angel or ranger checkpoint.
Yes.
And he is physically looking for your permit at that point, and that you have all the appropriate things you need. But as we said, the hike itself is not difficult. The Walters Wiggle going all the way up to get to
physically challenging.
That's physically more challenging than the hike at Angel's Landing.
Correct.
But it's a mental game because you have, I believe, I remember hearing it's 11 or 1,200 feet on one side and then 870 feet on the other side.
Of a drop-off.
And you've got about a 2 to 3 foot walkway.
Spine that you're walking on.
Right. You could easily.
You're making me nervous.
I know, right? Sweaty palms.
You're making me nervous.
And the crazy thing is like going up it. It wasn't that bad. Like going up it, because literally the rock face is in your face the entire time. So the whole time I'm like hand, foot, hand, foot, and I'm just crawling up this thing. And you get up to the top. It's this incredible view of all of Zion National Park. It's breathtaking. And, we had a little lunch up there. We had some little chipmunks that came and hung out with us. And you feel like you're on top of the world. And then you have to come down.
Yeah, hold on. Let's talk about the coming down in a minute. So we got to say that Caly's afraid of heights. She's just afraid of heights. And so I wasn't sure even when we went up Walter's Wiggle and we got to the top at Scout.
He's like, "Are you going to be okay?"
I still wasn't sure if she was going to do this hike. And she kept saying, "I'll do it till I can't do it." I'm like, "I'm not sure what that means, but okay."
Well, it means I'll do it till I can't do it, and then somebody needs to come rescue me.
Right. But, she surprised me. She was a champ. She didn't look nervous at all going up. I mean, she went up up the side of that mountain, or top of that mountain, I should say, like a champ. I was that one tourist with my phone.
He gave me
out there like, wow, this is so cool.
Right. And I'm like 4 points of contact at all time on the side of this mountain so I don't die. And Randy's
stay
like
real low.
Right. And Randy's like standing up there, one hand out, the other hand doing God knows what on one foot, taking selfies.
But you know what? I'm not terrified of heights, but I didn't, sometimes I'll get squirrely depending on the situation, but it's not frequent. But I never felt really that bad. I didn't feel, if you're smart about it, you're going to be fine. I mean, watch where you're stepping, pay attention. Don't
play with your cell phone.
When I was playing with my cell phones, I had a hand on the chain, or I was in a very big spot.
There is no safe zone. Okay, there is no safe zone.
Yeah. So where
that's how I feel about it.
Right. So one of the things with the trail that always kind of freaked me out leading up to it that I was thinking about is when you pass people, because they are very narrow walkways, and most of the hikers were extremely courteous. These are true hikers that understand hiking and
hiking etiquette, which
is
a thing.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like once it's down to a permit system, you gotta have probably more serious hikers that are applying for that, not just casual ones out there for Instagram or something.
Yeah, for sure, but. So and that wasn't even too bad when we were passing people. I think it was a little bit more scary when we come down. We'll talk about that in a minute. But going up, the views are breathtaking. I mean, breathtaking.
Yeah.
The most stunning views you'll ever see in your life. You're looking down through the canyon of Zion National Park, and it's just, I don't actually know if it's a canyon. It might be just
I don't know.
plateau.
Because you're literally on the top of the spine of a plateau in the middle of like everything beneath you.
And when
I don't even know how to describe it.
Like I'll hopefully flash some pictures up here for you, but when you take the pictures don't even look real.
Right.
I mean, they just don't look real. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. And we spent about, what do you think? Maybe an
30,
hour, 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. And then you have to, so here's the tricky part, folks, is you have to come down. And going up, you have a rock in front of your face as a reference point.
Or the person's ass that's in front of you.
Or the person's butt in front of you. Right. Yeah. Going down, all you can see is the drop off on either side of the spine.
Yep.
And so that was there was one point. So you have so many chains and railings to hang on to, and there was this one point. It was the most narrow part of the entire spine, and literally you're down to about 2 feet. So you're up, and it's where the two spines join in a little valley, and so you're up on the edge of one spine. You have to step out,
and there's
into
no chain,
nothingness,
right.
and there's no chain.
Yeah, no.
And you just have to step until you step down into this little 2-foot patch of ground before you can grab on to the next railing and pray to God that it's not going to fall off the side of this spine and drop you into 1,200 feet of nothingness.
Caly is a little dramatic.
It's not dramatic because that's what went through my head.
I don't feel like she. No, listen, Randy, I don't think she is.
Right?
We actually have a video of what. Go ahead.
To be perfectly honest with you, when we were there,
we had the option of going. There was no permit system. We could have definitely gone, and we chose not to.
Yeah.
We decided to stay safely on the ground and look at the ants up there and wave.
Yeah,
right?
She's equally, and I'm not too far behind her. Equally terrified of heights as Caly is. And again, this was before the permit system, so there was far more people sharing those chains and trying to pass each other.
No.
Yep.
Nope. And like,
but good on y'all.
Yeah, but good job to you guys.
For real.
You know, and kind of what after we were done and we were coming down, and Caly, I'm gonna say Caly's correct that coming down was way more
terrifying.
Because there was a couple places I started getting a little like, because you're looking straight down into the canyon.
And that was that spot that I was standing there, and I was like, I literally, my whole body froze up, and I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot make this step. They are going to have to come get me with a helicopter because I cannot take this step and grab into nothing. And you're looking literally at 2 feet of land you have to step on and hopefully grab a hold of that little railing before you go plummeting off the edge.
It's like, I guess I live here now.
I'm never leaving.
Oh, well.
Y'all better find out accommodations.
Yeah, exactly. So when we were coming down, and this just kind of, fear of heights is, a very individual thing. And so we were coming down, we were pretty much all the way back at this point, and we're just kind of
we're back at
hopping and skipping
lookout
at this point because we were back in what I'd call the safe zone, but we were still on Angel's Landing, and there was a gentleman, I don't know if it's her husband or boyfriend or what, but his girlfriend was on all fours, just sitting there at the top of this kind of climb up where some chains were, and she just on all fours just stopped. And he looks at me and he's like, "Does it get any better than this?" And I'm like, dude,
I'm like, this is the easy part.
I'm like, you just started.
Yeah.
Like you've seen nothing at this point. You just began the hike.
Yeah.
And
I was that girl in Grand Canyon because that was not my favorite part because all of those
Yeah.
We made it only like 1 mile down one of those hikes, and I was that girl hugging the wall with tears in my eyes.
I was I promise she's all right.
Yeah, all right. She's okay.
Yeah, they turned around, and I don't blame you. So again, a lot of people get killed on this hike, so don't take it lightly. If you're
not killed, they die.
Well,
like a lot of people die on this hike. Get killed is like ring.
We try to remove the death option from most of our hikes. We like challenges, but
no, I get it. But yeah, take it serious. If you're afraid of heights, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Caly is afraid of heights, but she overcame it.
I did.
And she's proud of herself, and she enjoyed it. I mean, it was amazing.
And I did. It was incredible. Would I do it again? Honestly, I probably would.
I
would do that height because I relate everything to the pain to pleasure ratio. And there was no real physical pain on that hike. It was just mental.
You can carry Victoria up, and I'll carry Thomas up.
Blindfolded.
Oh my God.
All right. So moving on to our last one, we're going back to Arizona. This is one we all four have done.
Yeah.
But Thomas and Victoria did a different part than what we did. So we're talking about Antelope Canyon. This is just outside of Page, Arizona. So why don't you tell us about your experience, and then we'll kind of add in our experience.
Yeah, so we actually did lower Antelope Canyon, and our experience was a little different because we did it during COVID, where Navajo Nation was not running tours, which is normally the way that you would get down into Antelope Canyon. But they do have an option if you have a paddleboard or a kayak that you can paddle Lake Powell into the lower part of Antelope Canyon and then kind of leave your paddleboard or kayak up on the shore and hike through that part. Now, it's not the area that you would see on Instagram, the one that you're used to seeing where there's that light that comes down through the cave and all that. But
you do get quite a bit of it. It's just maybe not quite as grand as if you went from the other end.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's really pretty, kind of same thing, very narrow slot canyons. But
striations in it. It's
yeah,
very
and
gorgeous.
it's kind of like a sandy hike throughout the whole thing. From the way we did it, there is no real, I think, we didn't get to a stopping point. We basically went in 2 miles and then came out 2 miles. But then when you think about it, we had to paddle 2 miles to get there and then paddle 2 miles to go back.
We're essentially triathletes.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So we did make it a little bit of a challenge, but there was a good 50, 60 people that were doing that same exact thing
Yeah,
that
they were
day.
not the only ones. They had tours and everything guided, so
Yeah,
it's
so
a fun way to go about it.
yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, so in order to do either one of them in a normal year, you have to have a guided tour. Is that right? I don't think you can or can you paddle up, but you just can't go into it.
Where we accessed, apparently there's supposed to be no tour.
Yeah,
like
I
it's just a
okay.
back door.
I think it's just kind of the back entrance,
Right,
you
the
know?
back door,
Gotcha.
like doo-doo.
Gotcha. So we've done the upper falls. Now they did the lower falls, so you've got to access by
Falls?
Or excuse me, not falls.
Canyon.
Yeah,
It's cute when you add
Creek,
things that are
lake.
not there.
upper Antelope Canyon and lower Antelope Canyon. We did the upper. We've done it a couple times, and a few years ago, I was able to do. They don't have this. They don't offer this anymore. But I was
Correct.
able to do a photographer's tour. You pay a little extra, and they allow you to bring tripod
They
in.
used to.
Right. You
We
were
don't
not.
know if that's still available, so you have to check
no,
this out for
it
yourself.
wasn't a few years
It was
ago.
not. Yeah.
But and you're not allowed to take the tripod in. They will not let you
No.
bring any backpacks.
No backpacks, no
You
tripod.
basically take your camera, and that's about it.
and just
But,
hold it.
Wow.
So Antelope Canyon, especially upper Antelope Canyon, is very busy. Lots of
Yes,
people. It's
very-
hard to get good shots without
Because you
getting,
have all these iconic pictures that people have seen on TV and internet for years and years and years, and that's why it's so crazy
Right.
popular.
Right, but on this photography tour, they actually held people off and let us get the shot for maybe, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes. And so I was able to get the God's Beam, which you can
That's
only
really
get
cool.
at 12 o'clock. I think it's between 12 and 1 is the only time you can get that shot.
it's a very specific time of day
Right.
as well. And then the guide actually threw sand up on the ledge for the sand to pour over so everybody could do their long exposures and get the silky
Yep.
sand coming over
That-
the edge.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually framed that, and it looked so natural, but it was all set up. But yeah, it's and we're going to put that
So
up here on the
funny.
screen now. But he took just basically a handful of sand, threw it up on this rock, and it just started pouring down like waterfall. And it turned out to be a stunning picture. In fact, we framed it, a massive,
massive, huge
picture.
picture
That's
that we
really
had
cool.
in our house before we sold it.
But yeah, just absolutely amazing. Definitely, you got to do it. Even with the people.
Mm-hmm.
What we found, kind of a pro tip, is the last time we did it, and this was not the photographer tour. We held back.
We
towards
did
the
the
end.
last
We
tour
did the
of the
last
day.
tour, and we stayed at the back of the line of the. There might have been 8-10 people with us.
Yeah.
We stayed at the back until we were able to turn around and take pictures and video
Behind
from
us.
behind us.
And there was nobody
And
behind
there was nobody
us.
there because no
Yeah.
other tours were
That
coming.
is
So-
brilliant, y'all.
But you can't
Yes.
time it with the time of day and the sun. But I'm sure you still got excellent photos.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was.
sure.
It was. It was very, very cool.
Well, and the ones, I'm glad you said that, because the ones for the 12 to 1 o'clock, I believe, is the time frame for the God's Beam. It's called the God's Beam. Those get booked up months in advance.
Oh yeah,
So
you can't get in.
if you
Oh,
absolutely
wow.
want that,
That's
you've got to get out there and book your ticket early.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, and that's in Page, and there's a lot of other cool things. You got Horseshoe Bend and a lot of really cool
Yep.
Yes.
things there. You got the dam
Love
there, and
Horseshoe
a lot of stuff in Page area. But
There's also, I know we discussed the wave earlier. There's actually something called the New Wave. that-
We did the knockoff version. I
We-
guess of both of those.
Really?
hikes, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
uh-huh.
So it's right up there.
In the same area.
Yeah,
In
same
Page
area, no permit required. But it's not nearly as cool. There is
No.
an area where it has the kind of
Wave.
illusion of the wave, but
Yep.
it's not like
Not
it's
as
not where it's side to side and like a big
Yep.
kind of dip canyon. But
And unless
But it's
something's
pretty cool.
changed in the last 4 years, it actually wasn't a marked trail on all trails. It's one of those secret ones that you could. You
gotta do a little bit of research.
Yeah, you do some research and they're like, go here, and you find the coordinates and kind of wing it.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I totally just Googled this. Yeah.
Yep. I think
Look at
Wendland,
that.
she took her family to that because she
Okay.
couldn't get into the wave. So
Yep.
yeah.
Nice.
Now, so that, these are all 15 of these hikes are great hikes.
Yes.
We've kind of tried to give you as balanced of opinion and what you're going to see, the good, the bad, and all that. We apologize this went a little bit later than most of our podcasts, but we felt that these were all great hikes.
They are.
Worthy of, conversation. So, but that kind of wraps up the hike section. Thomas and Victoria, why don't you tell us a little bit where, you guys have a YouTube channel. You do a great job. I should say that, what attracted me to Thomas and Victoria first, and we've done a couple different jobs together, for the magazine and stuff, but what really attracted me is their videos are just top notch. They do a really good job with your videos, as far as like editing and the filming of it. And I felt like you did a really great job. And so we really appreciate all that you've done for RV Destinations Magazine. But tell us a little bit about the channel, where everybody can find you, what you guys got going on, and if they want to reach out.
Yeah,
thank
we
you so
really
much.
appreciate it. Yeah, so we put out a video pretty much every week about where we go, all the fun places that we've been. A lot of it is covered, like all of these hikes that we've talked about that we went on. We have full videos on there. So if you want to check us out at Project RV Live and Lost, that's our channel, and all of the social media. We put out photos of all the pretty places. They're not as pretty as your photos, though.
Yes, definitely not as pretty as your photos.
I don't know about that.
But we do try and cover pretty much everywhere that we go. A
little bit of everything. What
campground
to do.
Locations, outdoor activities. We're really big suckers on like small towns.
Yes.
We don't do a whole lot of cities, so you're not going to see a whole lot of that on our channel. But I will say, we're about 180 something episodes into this channel, and don't judge us on the first one. Judge us on like episode 50 because they get a lot better. I promise y'all. We learned along the way.
It started off just for our family, so
Yeah.
No, we know exactly what you're talking about because our podcast has done the same thing.
Of course, we say that, but then we're like, how many podcasts in, and we're still having fun.
Well, we've
it's always a work in progress, right?
Right.
It's an adventure.
Always
exactly.
learning.
Well, and I'm going to call Victoria out. There's something special that she does, a little hobby she does on her channel. Something with EDM music, is that right?
Oh man, she did call you out.
Oh my goodness.
So tell us a little bit about your hobbies.
It's just something that we do for fun. We're like big dance music junkies. Like we like to go to like festivals and like these big multiple day events and stuff like that. And it's
twirling the glow sticks. Unka, unka, unka.
Yes.
Oh
yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We have
dressing
full
up,
costumes.
All of it. Oh, yeah. But one Christmas,
it.
he just decided to get me a DJ board. He likes listening to the music. He's like, "Play me music, DJ."
Yeah, and she's gotten really good at it. It's not really like part of our channel. You can obviously skip over those channels or those episodes, but like we try to go to like cool outdoor places where there's like good scenery.
Big Bear, California,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
but
that's amazing.
I will say again, don't judge us. We are kind of like ravey weirdos sometimes, like a couple of times a year. But those festivals are great when you own an RV because you go to a lot of these things and people are tent camping or have to find other lodging.
Rolling around in the mud, and here we are with the shower.
And here we are. We have our
and you're like,
entire
excuse
home
me,
with
I
us.
have to go back to my air conditioning, my own bed, and shower. It's totally roughing it.
Yeah.
I love that you called us out on that, Randy.
I was trying to embarrass Victoria, but yeah, no, that's fun. I did watch about 5-10 minutes of one of her DJing videos, and I enjoyed it.
You don't have to lie. It's
okay.
not your music.
It's not your thing.
For
it's not
everyone.
your thing.
All right. Well, again, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in, and if you've stuck through all over an hour of our content here, we appreciate this.
Yeah,
and
thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening, and you want to take us out, baby?
Yeah, so thank you, Thomas and Victoria from Project RV Living Lost, for joining us today and talking about some of our favorite hikes all across the United States. And we want to thank all of you out there for joining in and listening to us today, whether you're just joining in on the audio side, on the podcast side, or you're out on YouTube and you get to see our happy, shiny little happy faces. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the RV Destinations podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I couldn't say that. Subscribe button on YouTube. Button on YouTube. Thank you, so that you always get our latest content.
He's loving those things.
I know the buttons, all the buttons. So Oh, so much love today. So
AM
anyway,
radio.
if you don't have a glass, raise a glass. Thank you all for joining us today. Will you stop it with the buttons? And if you
He's
guys
just
are, if
finding
anybody is,
everything he can.
oh, good Lord. Okay, so if you are still listening at this point, kudos to you. Thank you for joining us and thank you for staying.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around. Be sure to use the code podcast20 to save 20% off of any of our subscriptions for our magazine, because you're going to want to check that out. It's incredible. And check out our website, rvdestinationsmagazine.com. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We really appreciate it.
Be safe out there.
Safe travels, y'all.